Hello, my name is Roman Dindihashvili, and this video is from the series of World's Greatest Players. Part 2 about my good friend, he passed away and I dearly miss him, Mikhail Tal. Before I start this video, I want to show you one position that has nothing to do with Tal. And there is a reason why I am showing you this position. In this position, very frequently, white plays a3. It's almost only sensible move, but I invented the move, or kind of invented, then I saw there were few games were played, very insignificant games. Castle, and after b4, go knight d5, and ed. Now, this position, I defended evaluation of this position for white, where white is a piece down, and I played several games on internet primarily against very strong players, and one of them was Caruana, and I believe I won every game. I won every game because not because I was superior player, because my beliefs and my evaluation of this position was correct. And it's very difficult to play well for black. The reason I brought this position, what made me believe that this position can be good and white has very good attacking chances when there is practically no threat at all. Let me show you what. Well, we're not going to analyze this position. What made me think so? Because I saw game couple of decades, maybe even 3 decades ago, that was played by Tal in interzonal tournament in Bled, Yugoslavia, against none the other than Bet Larsen. E4, C5. You see this is different variation of Sicilian. D4, CD, knight takes D4. Now E6. Knight C3, D6. Bishop E3, it's a very well-known Scheveningen type of position. And you're going to see soon why I showed you the position I was defending. Bishop E7, Queen F3, castle, and white castles. Queen C7, Knight B5, and G4. A6, those are pretty much standard Sicilian type of moves. Knight takes D4, bishop takes D4. Of course, black can play E5, but then white goes G5. And after bishop G4, queen G3, position is complicated, but I think it favors white. White is going to get their piece back, and then going to have very good outpost for a knight on D5. And Larsen knew better than not to go with such a messy tactical position against Tal, because before this game he was burned a couple of times badly. So after bishop takes d4, b5 was played. Black could have played e5, attacking bishop on d4 and pawn on g4. But then white would continue g5 and on bishop g4, queen g3. We're gonna have very sharp position that in my opinion favors white, because white is gonna get their piece back because knight is hanging, and if knight moves bishop is gonna be lost, and white is gonna get the d5 square, powerful d5 square for the knight. Well, Larson knew better not to get involved with such a risky position, especially against Tal. So he simply continued in this position with b5, and after g5, knight d7. Bishop d3, and after b4, Tal played knight d5. Now, black is almost forced to take, and white takes. That's why I showed you in beginning of this video my evaluation and my recommendation of peace sacrifice in Paulson. This and solely this game inspired me. I remember this game for several decades and inspired me, and I started strongly believe that these types of position where extra piece does not really play, and priority here takes direct attack on opponent's king, and this position is highly dangerous for black. f5 was played, which is nearly the forced move, and it's forced move for two reasons. First of all, white, well, on any move like knight c5, white can simply take and get their piece back, attacking bishop on e7 and threatening mate on h7. So the reason why f5 has to be played, first of all, to defend against white's queen e4, and also stop in future white from playing f5. For example, like on rook e8, maybe h4, and followed by f5 and f6. White's attack is extremely dangerous. By playing f5, black is trying to shut both of white bishops. Well, f5 is a natural thing, and also giving some breather to their king. So in the game happened rook d to e1, and we have the position that is very much favorable for white. Now, how do we know that? We have no immediate threats. White has no immediate threats, well, except for rook takes e7, but black can protect the bishop or move it. And then white has only potential slowly developing the attack. Now, how do we know that this is good? This is what is called intuition. And intuition frequently is developed by experience. What experience? Your experience, and the experience you can get from the games you look. And let me tell you something that is very important for every developing chess player. I know that countless, maybe thousands of chess players tried in some point of their career to copy best players in the world, copy very strong players. But this is very dangerous task. It's very dangerous thing to do. You should copy only. Well, for example, I copied some ideas, but I copied some ideas of best players under great supervision of my tutors. That's what I learned in botanic school. You should copy only things that you see they did. If you like it, if you understand deeply what they did, and if you know exactly what would you do if your opponent replied differently than the person you copy his opponent did. So you have to have full confidence in the position, and only then you can use their methods of playing, their concrete moves, and their ideas. But copying some best players for the sake of copying backfires over 90% of the time. Over 90% of the time. And this is something you should never do. Well, in this case, I did understand when I looked at, I do believe now that white has tremendous attacking possibilities. And it's okay to copy it. But when you do that and you don't know where exactly the attack is, then it's very, very wrong to play this position. Well, now let's go on with the game. In my opinion, actually, I evaluated this position even much higher than I thought white's advantage is a lot bigger than it really is. That's how I believe in this position. After rook f7, h4 was played. Of course, it's an obvious move. You would want to go h5 and g6. And it's very difficult for black to defend. Bishop b7. That's not a great position for a bishop, but there is no other square for a bishop. And black has to bring their queen or rook on a king side for defensive purposes. So after bishop b7, well, bishop f5 was played. This move I don't agree with, and I like a lot less than consistent h5. h5 with g6, I think, was very strong. And then I went for advice from top engines that agreed with me that after h5, black is losing. But it's very hard to criticize white for playing bishop takes f5 because that is too very powerful. It's hard to criticize white for bishop takes f5 because this move is very powerful as well. For what would have happened on h5 if queen f8, g6, and on rook f6, g takes h, with absolutely terrible attack, which should have won the game. But again, Tal didn't see immediate distraction, so he played a move that he correctly evaluate that should win as well. Rook takes f5, rook takes e7. The only difference is that now white has to win quiet way. Larson found some interesting resources. Knight e5, queen e4 must be played. Now you see the knight is hanging on e5, rook is hanging on f5, and knight cannot move because g7 pawn is hanging. However, queen f8 gives them some chances. F takes c, and now taking rook will lose slowly, but will surely will lose. Rook f4 was played. White retreats to e3. And white has now, from very powerful attack, back to material advantage. Now they have two extra pawns. So what happened? Rook f3 was played. Queen e2. Queen takes e7. This rook has to be taken because bishop on b7 is hanging and also ed is threatening. Queen takes e7. Queen takes f3. D takes c. You see, that's why I said that I liked better h5 move, because now white has an extra pawn, but as it turns out, they're going to win another pawn after rook e1. And rook e1 was played. Rook d8. And here comes series of minor tactical details that seals black's fate. Queen d6, intending to take on d5. Queen f4. Now bishop takes d5, loses immediately to rook e8 check, which wins the queen. And queen f4 is the saddle move, very accurate move, that's indirectly protecting the d5 pawn. You see, queen protects d5, but that's not enough. Black has 3 attacks. Queen f4 indirectly protects the pawn, disables bishop takes d5. And after queen f4, rook f8 was played. But now queen e4. Rook f1 check. Well, actually, rook f1 would have lost immediately after king d2 and rook e8 check. So Larson played b3, hoping that after white takes, and white did take, now to get some counter chances with queen b4 check. This position can be won by white several different ways. Even bishop c3 wins here. But c3 was played. And now queen is hanging and white has absolutely decisive attack. Queen d6. And Tal is being very consistent, not missing small tactical details like bishop c5. Rook e8 check is coming. Queen takes c5 is forced. Rook check. King cannot come up because of mate in 1. So rook f8 has to be played. And very accurate precision to the end of the game. So queen f7, rook on f8 hangs, rook cannot be protected and cannot be moved. Black simply resigned. What can I say about this game? This game I like because it's kind of invention of a new approach to material. And normally it's been known that when you sacrifice peace, and there was a saying, you can sacrifice positionally a pawn or maybe exchange for a pawn, but when you sacrifice whole piece or a rook, you better look for immediate mate or some immediate return. And here, nothing. White never got immediate return. And later on, they got full compensation for a piece. And it's ironic that they end up winning the game with a big material advantage. In my opinion, this was one of Tal's best games. Now, why do I call this game the best? This is the best game because it's kind of played in a style that was not very well known and very well adjusted in 1960s. And it was not very well adjusted and was not very frequently used. It's kind of pioneer of this type of sacrifice. We have seen many sacrifices Tal has done where he would sacrifice rook, queen, with direct attack on opponent's king and a checkmate. But this is different. This is long-term initiative, and I was very impressed. And I looked at this game right after it was played, and I could never take this game out of my mind. And later on, I started using these sacrifices in various different positions. I would even go overboard, and sometimes I would sacrifice piece for this type of structure when it was not justified. It still puts big burden on your opponent to defend position precisely, and there is no waste of simplifying position. So they are on for long term defense. And this is very difficult for a human to do. So what I would say that in 92, when Tal passed away, we lost one of the greatest minds in the history of chess. And in my case, I lost a very good friend. So I hope you learned something from this video, and thank you very much.